I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about a writer that some people absolutely hate. His name is William Faulkner, and I happen to love him. And I want to tell you why you should spend the time reading his books, even though they're really, really hard. This is probably the hardest of his books. It's called The Sound and Fury, and I'll take a minute to show you some of the text in this book. Country people, poor things, they never saw an auto before. Lots of them honk the horn, Candace, so she wouldn't look at me. They'll get out of the way, wouldn't look at me. Your father wouldn't like it if you were to injure one of them. I'll declare your father will simply have to get an auto now. I'm almost sorry you brought it down, Herbert. I've enjoyed it so much. Of course, there's the carriage, but so often when I'd like to go out, Mr. Compson has the darkies doing something. It would be worth my head to interrupt. He insists that Roscus is at my call all the time, but I know what that means. I know how often people make promises just to satisfy their consciences. Are you going to treat my little baby girl that way, Herbert? But I know you won't. Herbert has spoiled us all to death. Quentin did. I write you that he is going to take Jason into his bank, and when Jason finishes high school, Jason will make a splendid banker. He is the only one of my children with any practical sense. You can thank me for that. He takes after my people. The others are all Compson. Jason furnished the floor. They made kites on the back porch and sold them for a nickel apiece. He and the Patterson boy. Jason was a treasurer. The question is, why would anybody bother to read a writer who's deliberately making it hard for their readers? Because, there are plenty of books out there you can read that are great, that aren't hard to read. So why waste your time? Why waste your energy? Well, it's not a waste of time and energy. But that's not always the case for difficult books. There are books that are difficult that are not worth reading. I can think of one famous book that I will not name that I found very difficult going, and I decided it wasn't worth it. But I've always stuck the Faulkner out and pushed through, and I've always been glad I did. Here's what happens when you read a book like William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury and you stick it out. The effort you make to read the book pays off because you are more fully involved in that book than you ever would have been just by reading it. Now, you take a fully immersive book like Lord of the Rings, that's going to get you involved because you're interested in the story, because you wish you were in it, and it's almost like you're in that imaginary land being someone else. You get to pretend you're someone else. You wouldn't want to pretend you're one of the people in a Faulkner book. You go in as you, and you wrestle with the book as you. And so you come out of a Faulkner book more fully you. You struggle with it, and it gets into your guts like nothing else. So you come out with Faulkner part of you as well as you part of the book. This is a very strange experience, but it's one you can only have with a book that asks a lot of you. And these days, people don't often read books that ask a lot of them. So I'm encouraging you to do that. How do you read a Faulkner book? Just like everything else we've talked about, you start big picture. The best thing to do is just read it. Do the best you can. If you find a part is really difficult, just blast through until you get to a part you like. If you want to prepare yourself for the thing, you can get big picture by reading summaries, articles about the book. If that's too much work, like I said, just dive in. You may want to try reading it a second time, paying attention to the details, although that may be a tall order. But again, the more work you do on a book like this, the more it's going to pay off in ways you never expected. And of course, once you've done the work, you're going to be thinking about the book a lot, and that's your big picture again. Whole, part, whole. See you next time, and if you have any comments or you want to tell me how much you hate Faulkner, put them in the comments below.